Hi there. For some reason I always seem to do these videos at like 1 o'clock in the morning on Mondays. I don't know why, but I think it's just when I get the most ambitious. But in a previous video that I had done a couple of months ago, I had talked about routines and rituals and how I had actually successfully managed to break one of them, which is something that's very hard for us to do. But I want to kind of go into just a little bit more detail about routines and rituals and why they're very important for the autistic person. Well, in this case, I have a rare appearance cameo almost from the Dell, because it's going to pull up. It's going to pull up a program that some of you might remember. I'll get a virtual 8086 machine going here, and boom! You might remember this. This is Microsoft's Quick Basic, and it's out of focus. If I hold down the shutter release button, it should focus. It's not wanting to do that. You know what, I'll just zoom in on it. That might be a little better. Bend over and try and get that. But yeah, so let me find it here. These are programs that I wrote many years ago. But this program that I wrote here, it's just a very simple screensaver program that I wrote. And I'm covering up one of the audio things with my thumb. That's not what I want to do. But yeah, this is just a really simple screensaver program. And the reason why I reference programming is because the autistic brain functions a lot like a computer program. And that we want predictable input to give us predictable output. And so in this case I hit the F5 key. And voila, you've got bouncing circles all over the screen. So yeah, that's basically the gist of it right there. The brain of people like me and others who are part of this giant community, our brains work like a computer program. And if there are parts of the program that aren't written, then you kind of run into some problems. So to help me out here, to kind of show you how this goes, I'll just pull up Paint here on Windows. So now, when it comes to people like me, we like things to be, as I've said, and as I'm sure you've noticed, if you know people who are on the spectrum, you know, they like things to be predictable, they like things to be routine, they like things to be ritualized. And because this is how the brain of a person on the spectrum works. Let's say something happens, we'll just call this, an event. And I'll move this to the center so that it's nice and even. So now you got some happening here and we have to react to it. Now if you're a neurotypical person, you got a little thing called intuition that kicks in. And based on all the input that you're gathering from the outside world, your brain automatically formulates a plan. It's an automatic process, and you don't think about it, and you just go about it, and you handle it, and it's all's well in the end. But for those of us on the spectrum, our brains don't exactly work like that. Remember the computer programming. We want predictable inputs and predictable outputs on things. And so at least this is how my brain works. I've even caught myself doing this, where I will logic tree out responses to things. So let's say I need to go get groceries. So I'll just erase this out. There we go. So let's say I need food. I need to go to the grocery store, or I'm hungry or something. Well, let's just say I need to go to the grocery store. So let's There's high V. I got a Walmart that's about a mile down the street from me. And there's a Target only a few blocks from my apartment. Voila, there's my logic tree of how I would handle this situation. I would either go to Hy-Vee, Walmart, or Target. Now, if either one of these options was off the table for some reason, I would get stuck because my brain is not programmed for alternatives. And that causes a lot of anxiety. It's kind of like the old Super Mario Brothers game, the minus world glitch. What's happening when you exploit the glitch is that the programming goes off into the weeds because it's gone somewhere that it was never designed to do. And that's a good approximation of what's going on inside the brain of a person on the spectrum who is encountering something that is outside of what they consider to be normal. And so, just to kind of give you an example of how this has impacted me in real life, I remember back in 2004 when I first found my way to Oshkosh to start the second half of my educational career, and I remember my first night on campus, I had to go to the dining hall to go eat. And as I approached the dining hall, it suddenly dawned on me that I had never done this before, gone to the dining hall, get a meal deducted off my plan, and then go find food to eat, go sit down somewhere and actually eat it. Not to mention this was 5 p.m. and the place was completely packed with people. So never done this before. And I remember standing there at the bottom of the steps at the entrance trying to fight off a panic attack because the level of anxiety was up through the roof. And so finally, after about 10 minutes, I think, of just standing there, I think I was able to calm myself down and I was able to go up and finally feel my way through the process. Unfortunately, I didn't make too much of a fool of yourself. Because again, it's all about that programming. So let's go back to the analogy of computer programming here. And it's got to be in code for us to deal with it. And if we don't have a lovely subroutine to call on, then we could easily run ourselves into a lot of problems. And I apologize for the rambling nature of these vlog videos. It's always been incredibly difficult for me to express my inner thoughts and feelings because that's just the nature of the beast that I live with. And so I can't script these out, I can't plan these out because it just doesn't work. I just come off feeling forced and stiff and unauthentic, I guess you could say.